Hello, Happy New Year 2026. Well, this is our first video for the year, and what I'm going to be, and it's the first one in a series of why I feel that 2025 had not been good to me. It is it's about just under 40 degrees here today, and it has been for the whole week. So I've snuck into the bedroom with my air conditioner because I don't have air conditioning in the office. I just have a fan. So yeah, 2025 was I reckon it sucked the whole year. And so I'm going to break this down into different videos because, I'm trying to keep the videos just a little bit shorter. So I'm just going to jump straight in. And in fact, the first thing that happened to me was actually Christmas Day 2024, but close enough to 2025. I have had symptoms of C.A.A. since 2014, and through the years I've learned when I need to go to the hospital and when I can just get through what the episode is throwing at me at the time. I want to thank you all too for coming back, because the whole last year I hardly did anything. My mind was not in it, and I just couldn't do it. And we're now, I think it is January the 9th, I think. And I don't know, I just don't have the mindset. So I'm just going to try to be a good girl today and at least get one out for you. All right, so let's go backwards to Christmas Day 2024, and we were invited to a friend's house for like, when you go between the lunch and the tea. So we rocked up before then, and I'd been sitting there around the kitchen table with other people. I don't drink anymore, so I wasn't drinking alcohol, and I needed to go to the toilet. So I went off to the toilet and sat myself down, and as I stood up, it was a weirdness. And I knew then that I was having hallucinations. So I was having an episode that presented itself in hallucinations. I walked out of the toilet and instantly knew. Now, I was aware where I was. I knew the layout, but I knew that when I walked out into the hallway was different. So I knew I was at my friend's house, but I knew that this didn't look a thing like my friend's house. So I continued down to the kitchen, and, there was my family and friends sitting around the table. And I just kind of, glanced around, and everything was different. So I sat down, and I don't like to, I don't really like to do a song and dance if I have an episode. I just sit first, and I make my husband aware most times, but and I didn't, because I've had hallucinations before, and they're really weird, and usually they're over within about 10 minutes. So I sat down, and when I glanced to one end of the room, there had been, when I first walked in, big glass doors that looked out into a covered-in veranda, and the veranda, and the ground was concrete. It was concrete. Their dog was out there, and it was just basically you could just drive. It was like a driveway, and I guess really it was a patio covered in, but it was also where they parked their cars and used it, and then took that out to use it on special occasions, or if they needed extra room. But when I looked out, before I went to the toilet, the dog was there, and the veranda was there, and the concrete floor was there, and I think there was a bike on the floor that one of the kids had dropped and left there. But when I came back and I glanced out the door, The dog was still there, the same dog. The dog hadn't changed, but suddenly, instead of the concrete floor, was green lawn and pot plants out there. And I can't tell you whether it had a roof. I can't recall that. But a year has gone by and my memory's a bit, but it was different. Like, it was not what had been there prior to me going to the toilet. And it's mesmerizing and it's freaky all at the same time. Now, sitting at the table were a lot of people that I didn't know. And so, again, like I said, I didn't make a big song and dance. I just was going to ride it through. And, if I felt it went to a different level, I would have headed to the hospital. And so also what was different is, like, where this room that changed, or this patio, I then glanced to this side of me, and there was another set of double doors, and out those doors they had a concrete pad, and their caravan was there. And again, it was covered over, had a roof, but just nothing. It was just where they parked the caravan, but the caravan was gone. And no, I lied. The caravan was still there, but the stuff around the caravan had gone. There was no longer a concrete pad, and I think the grass was like tatty grass. It wasn't manicured grass like out the back. And it mesmerizes you. So I glanced around and the whole room was different. I couldn't pick out kind of like specific little details, but I knew that because I'd been sitting there a couple of hours before I got up to go to the toilet, and I knew it was all changed. Behind me, so we were sitting at a table, so behind me was the kitchen area with a kitchen bench. And when I had gone to the toilet, there were a couple of used glasses. So someone had finished with their glasses, put them on the bench ready to be, moved into the sink. But now there was rows and rows and rows of clean, sparkling glasses. And there was a vase or a vase, and it had a beautiful display of flowers in it. They weren't there when I came into the place. It wasn't like that. And anyway, I thought, okay, I think I need to go home. And as I thought it, my husband, because I think he notices, because when I have an hallucinogenic one, I'm mesmerized and I tend to look around like this because I'm amazed it was there before and then it's not. Anyway, so he said, oh, do you want to head home? And I'm there, yeah. So we got an Uber, which is a ride share. And once I got in there, though, I felt like I was going to be sick. And like hot flushes. And so I said, right, we'll head home, but the hospital is further on. So we have to pass home. So my way that I always figure it is, if I get to where we turn to go home and nothing's not resolving itself, then we'll just go on. But when we got to that point, even though I still felt very sick, the things had started to resolve themselves. And so we just continued home and, just went. And I think when I got home, I felt really, really groggy, really like as if I was exhausted, as if my brain had been working overtime for some reason. So we stayed up for a few hours and then things got, resolved themselves a lot more. And then I said, I think I'm going to go to bed because I felt like it was all changing. So really and truly, that was the start of a few things to come in 2025. You guys probably go, oh, you should have run to the hospital. Look, I've had the symptoms since 2014. My own neurologist said to me, you will know if something happens that doesn't, you'll know when to go to the hospital, or it'll be so sudden. But, you know, and I've been before, and I go, you spend ages in the emergency room waiting to be seen. If depending on what's happening, like with a hallucination, I get to go into the stroke area, but it's like, then they take your blood and then they do this and it takes forever, and then they put me into hospital, and then I'm there 2 or 3 days and nothing else happens, and then they let me home. So, that's kind of, you probably won't agree with that, and that's fine. But so far, that's what I've been doing. And as I say, I know within a few minutes if it's going to change, it starts to change. And if it doesn't, then that's when I head off to the hospital. So that was the start of 2025. And it was Christmas, just before New Year. And what I've found over the years is I tend to have an episode, and then it's like nothing might even happen again for nearly a year or whatever. That's kind of been like that. I mean, sometimes I feel like I'm a fraud, and because people around me have such a hard time, and all these years it just hasn't. I'm going to just end it here. It's a very quick one. I just wanted to keep the videos short. I've got another one ready that I'm going to video. It's a bit in depth, so I've actually written it down, and I think I might just read it, because with my memory, I miss out lots of what I want to say to you. So I'm going to just leave it here. I'm going to upload this and look for the next one. This is sort of the first video, and I think I've got enough to do like 4 videos. But here we are now in 2026, so I'm hoping that 2026 will be better, mentally as well as health-wise. So look for the next video. That shouldn't be too far away. I'm going to start it now. It's just under 40 degrees, and I might as well sit in this room where it's nice and cool and get these videos done. So thank you for coming back. Please stay tuned. Look for the next video. I've loved all your messages, and I'm sorry if I take a long time to get back. And I'm trying to be better than that, but my mind is just kind of not. I'm trying to get motivated again, and this year I've not been able to. All right, I'll see you in the next video.